Good afternoon. I'm Amber Forster. I'm the DPO for OIA and also the chair of the council this year. So if you're new and I haven't met you yet, welcome, or welcome to everyone, really. And I really wanted to start out today with a couple things, just take a couple minutes. As many of you know, I think Kai Turner, our previous vice chair, was promoted within his agency. Pretty exciting for him. And he is unable to continue his duties as vice chair in the new capacity he is in. And so we had reached out to see if anyone was interested in filling the spot of vice chair, and Josh Hardage from Business Oregon stepped up and said he is willing to do that. So he'll be committing to being vice chair this year and then chair the next year, stepping into the chair role next year. So, and I'm not exactly sure if there's kind of a vote. I just want to kind of reach out and see, make sure this is okay with everyone. If anybody wants to thumbs up this decision, if you're in support of Josh taking on that role as vice chair for the council, feel free to kind of thumbs up now on the reactions, put anything in the chat. Any concerns, feel free to reach out. So far, we've gotten pretty positive feedback from the idea that he's going to be taking on this role. I think he'll be a really great member to step in and fill Kai's shoes. Okay, so next, one thing we wanted to talk about was the DPO information, or the DPO list, really, and getting that updated out on the website. And I think Kimberly is going to post a link in the chat for everyone. Oh, it's right there. If you go to that link, and I want to say it's in the bottom right corner under resources, you'll see DPO lists. If you can do us a favor and go out there and take a look to see if we have your agency listed, to see if we have the correct name for the DPO, and that the contact information is also correct. If it is not, please reach out to Kimberly Wisdom. Just shoot her an email and she can get that updated for us. Just really important that contact information is updated and correct. I just went out there and looked and they changed our email and I was like, oh, I need to update my email. It forwards for now, but who knows when it might not, right? So if you can kind of just spread the word, that would be amazing. Or if you know of any colleagues who maybe aren't here today, that if you can kind of spread the word too. We're just trying to get that updated so that we have all the most up-to-date information and the correct DPO, because I know we've had some movement lately. So that would be great. All right, let's moving right along. We are going to start with an Oregon Buys update today. And kind of a couple things, just a general update from Oregon Buys, quick general update. And then we want to talk a little bit about wave one lessons learned, right? I think we're coming up on the end, of wave one is starting to get close to being done. And I just thought it'd be really helpful for those folks who are in the future waves to kind of know of, hey, here's some lessons learned, here's some recommendations that we might ask people to do. I know we talked about this a long time ago about, what can we do to prepare and make sure that we, are in the best place to learn what we need to do, right, and get implemented, but also try to make it not as hard on the Oregon Buys team, because I know this is a lot. It's got to be a lot dealing with all these different agencies and doing things lots of different ways, and just kind of trying to incorporate this into everybody's business world, right? So Nicole, you can take it away.
Thank you very much. Can everybody see the slide deck?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and jump in. So things we want to cover today, we want to share a project status update and our 8-month look ahead. I want to talk about the master blanket purchase order remit address requirement. We've had a lot of questions on that one, so I want to give an update for folks on that. We want to give an update on canceling a bid in Oregon Buys and just share some information on that. An update on spots card purchases in the system. We want to talk about, get some brainstorming, some suggestions from folks on a contact person for support issues, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And then what those Wave 2 agencies can do to start getting prepared. And I think that ties, Amber, exactly into what you were just talking about. So I don't know at that point if we want to pause maybe and ask any of those Wave 1 agencies to share any feedback. and then time for questions and answers. So with that, I will hand it to Carter for our project status update.
Thank you, Nicole. Good afternoon, everybody. I got 2 slides to show you, the project status update slide, and then we'll look at the 6-month look ahead. But the number one activity I think that's foremost on folks' plate is the agency validation session. And there's 2 purposes for that. The first is to qualify each agency to use the R-STARS interface to Oregon buys. So we're partnering with the SFMS team to do that. Every agency has to be qualified to use the system in order to use Oregon buys for end-to-end procurement. And the second thing is just to validate that the agency-specific processes that were designed by the agencies earlier this year are working as intended. So last week we presented the Go Live checklist to the agencies. So we prepared, the project team prepared kind of a universal Go Live checklist. We distributed those to the agencies and asked them to get with their team, walk through those once a week, customize them to meet your business needs, and then to work with us as we march to our Go Live date of June 1st. Our business owner, project director, and a number of people are working hard to resolve a number of guidance decisions. I gotta think we have to have about into the hundreds now of specific decisions that we have to have made. So Kelly, thank you so much for the work you're putting in on that. We really appreciate it. And then finally wanted to share with you some numbers on the ADCAR survey that we distributed. You can read them there. The survey was aimed at learning about the awareness and desire components of ADCAR. The knowledge, ability, and reinforcement come later. The reason we didn't go after knowledge and ability is because we distributed this survey around the time that training was beginning. So we didn't really have a good way to survey that at that point because the training had not been completed. Also wanted just to mention that when we did distribute the Go Live checklist to the agencies, we asked the agencies for how they would like to remain engaged with the project team prior to Go Live. And we gave a number of options that we could pre-schedule recurring meetings. Any agency could request a meeting with us. They could check in with Adam, our agency liaison, and Adam would arrange something, or they could drop in on office hours that we're going to set up. So we're trying to maintain some engagement with the agencies between the end of our agency process design sessions and the Go Live event. I think I will go to the next slide, Nicole. So really, the project team's focused on that red diamond in the middle of the diagram on row 6, our Go Live event. I'm going to ignore the items above because I just talked about those, and we'll just kind of highlight that just post Go Live, we're into a 30 business day Go Live support period, and during that Go Live support period, we will have project resources available to answer questions from agency users. And after the 30 business day Go Live, post Go Live support period, agencies will use the support model of calling PHI for their Oregon buy support. We're also going into a wave 2 planning period. After the Go Live, we'll do a lessons learned. We'll re-baseline the schedule for the wave 2 agencies. And then the The wave 2 agency process design sessions are going to start toward the middle to end of August. And while all that's going on, the ODOT Teams interfaces is being developed. So that's requiring some of the PHI resource and some of the state resource. So I'll stop here and I can take any questions about scheduled activities, if anybody has any. How does the 6-9 planning start differ from the 6-22 kickoff start? Thanks for that question, Josh. The 6-9 planning start is about, we're going to be updating the project management plan, improving the work breakdown structure, and updating the schedule based on those updates. The 6-22 kickoff is aimed at beginning the communications out with the agencies for our wave 2 plans. And I'm getting a little feedback. Does that help, Josh?
Yeah, no, you answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? I don't see anything in chat. Nicole, kick back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on. The next, I wanted to address something we've been getting quite a few questions from agencies. So the master blanket purchase order remit address requirement. So folks may have noticed that for the last few weeks, you may have been getting errors when you've been creating your master blanket purchase orders and moving those to sent status, looking for an active vendor remit address. And so we're actually going to be removing that requirement to enter that remit address on the master blanket purchase orders, the purchase orders and releases. And instead, what we'll be doing is capturing that on the invoice. So the accounts payable folks will be selecting the remit address on the invoices instead. So for those agencies that are in wave 1, this will be a slight change to the way that we have been sort of looking at putting in remit on the master blanket, but I think it aligns a lot more closely with the current business practice. And the accounts payable folks are really the ones that have insight into what those remit addresses are, can look in our stars if needed to be able to compare. And so basically the accounts payable folks, they will be selecting the remit address on the invoice. When they go to select it, it will allow them to choose from any of the addresses on the vendor profile, and that can include the general mailing address and the any vendor created remit addresses. It won't be restricted just to those that have been synced over from our stars. So we will be pursuing an enhancement to be able to restrict that, just to help reduce that slight risk of an AP person accidentally approving an invoice to release payment and using a vendor created or a general mailing address. But I did just want to highlight, if that did happen, what really the ramifications would be. Again, the risk is pretty low. So if the vendor exists in our stars, the remit address would default to the master address, which is the vendor's legal address that comes over from the 52 screen, if folks are familiar with that. And so if you look at this screenshot here, it's showing in this situation, the vendor number is correct. The mail code is defaulting to that 000, and it's pulling that over. And really that just means that if the payment goes to that piece, the vendor may reach out to the agency to say, how come the payment went here versus like this other mail code of ours? And so it's just going to be kind of helping the vendor to understand so that they can get that over to the right department within their company. If a vendor does not exist in our stars, the transaction would just error out on the 530 screen, and it would display X's for the vendor number and 000 for the mail code. So just wanted to let folks know that this change is coming. I'm hoping to get this into production, if not this week, next week. So for those folks who are waiting to be able to move a master blanket purchase over to sent status, that should be coming. Now, all of this being said, if you do have a vendor that is going to need to be paid through our stars, you can absolutely proceed with getting those vendors set up in our stars, and your accounts payable folks would do that the same way they do today. But we just know that there are some instances where vendors will never be paid through our stars on some of these. So for example, if it's an ORS 190 and it doesn't have any monetary value, or if it's going to be paid with a P card or something like that, there's no reason to set those vendors up in our stars, and it's just extra work for the agency, extra work for SFMS. And so we want to avoid that. So I think this will be a much more efficient process. All this being said, we did move the deadline for completing our 2021 master blanket purchase orders. Originally, it was going to be the end of April, and we have now extended that to the end of May to give folks a little bit longer because we've had a brief pause while we've been working through this. So I want to stop and see if there are any questions on this piece. We'll certainly share out this slide deck, so you guys will have that if you want to share this with your AP folks as well.
Hey, Nicole, this is
Okay,
Philip.
I'm not. Hi.
Yeah, hey, just a quick clarification on my part. That May 31st deadline, that's to remove the remit address requirement, not the enhancement portion you're talking about.
Sorry, thank you for the clarification. So no, the May 31st deadline is when we moved from Orphan into Oregon Buys. We did a mass upload of agency contracts and put those into in progress master blankets. And those master blankets were all tattooed with the fiscal year 2021. And we are now in 2023 in Oregon Buys. And so we had to extend the roll period to allow folks to finish those and move those to sent status. And the deadline for that was going to be the end of April. And we've now pushed that to the end of May.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on this? Okay. I see a question from Mariah. Access control. Is there a form template for request to access Oregon Buys and role type moving forward after implementation? So Mariah, I'm gonna circle back on that just so that we can address any other questions on here similar to ours. So I do know that that there's a user management work group that's been working on kind of creating a form template, and I think it's being done basically for DAS with the idea that then it can be used by other agencies. I'm not sure if Aaron Ward is on the call today. Aaron, are you on the call? I was just going to see if you had anything more to add onto this, or Kelly. Oh, Aaron, can you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, and we actually met this week on this. The reports guru with the Oregon Buys team is working with the DAS IT organization administrator in trying to flesh out exactly what that process is going to look like. And what we've talked about is trying to identify the specific business needs that are required by the individual who needs that access, and to create a crosswalk that so that the organization administrators can connect the existing business needs to the system access, and exactly how that might flow, and what we would recommend at DAS IT's level, and then expanding that to then share it out to all of the agencies to say, this is what what the enterprise team recommends that you guys incorporate in your own processes. But that work is ongoing, and I'm not certain exactly when we'll be at a point where it's complete enough that we'll be able to share it. But that is definitely what we are suggesting, is to have a process in place for making those requests, and that those be based on the business needs, not specifically the system roles. Because the person requesting it is likely not going to have enough information to be able to answer that. So that's the status that we have right now. Hopefully we'll have something before go live.
And Erin, it looks like there's a follow-up. Do you envision the DPO would approve the agency request to access Oregon Buys?
Nicole, I'm happy to take that question. That's going to be somewhat dependent
Sure.
upon each agency and what your approval process is for different authorities within your agency. What Erin is describing is the process for developing that DAS is going to use, and we will like to think it's the best practice that we will recommend out to agencies, but we also know that different agencies have different levels of internal control, have different types of separations of duties depending on their agency size, and give different folks different levels of authority. So what we hope to give you is a roadmap, but you will have to make some decisions in your agencies as to whether or not your DPO is going to be approving access. In the case of DAS, I envision that it'll be myself for DAS employees as the agency DPO approving procurement access, but it'll go to our CFO, who will approve anybody who's going to have accounts payable user access in the system. And so that's at a high level what we think our approval path will look like. But hopefully we'll have it by June 1st because we need it ourselves by June 1st. But once we have that nailed down, we'll share it as an example that you folks could use, but tailor to your own business need. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Philip, for sharing. So yeah, Secretary of State, CPO, DPO approves the basic purchasing role. Approvers within their own departments can approve DAs, and then the financial services manager approves the AP user role. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Philip. Okay. Any other questions on the MBPO remit requirement and that update? Okay. So moving on, next we just want to share, we've had some questions about this, and we just want to share the current functionality and let folks know sort of how this works so that you're aware. So canceling a bid in Oregon Buys. When a bid is canceled, the bid is going to become invisible to the vendors in public. And that's kind of one of the questions that we had. The internal folks will still be able to see it, so the agency user can see it. But the vendors and the public cannot see it any longer, and those suppliers do not receive notification via email of the change. So we are pursuing an enhancement so that we can display the canceled bids to vendors, and also to prompt an automatic email to go out when the bid is canceled. But we want to just let folks know the way that it works today so that you're aware, and if you need to let vendors know that you would want to communicate directly with them outside of the system to be able to give them a heads up if you're canceling a bid. Any questions on that? I think it's just good to have a better understanding of the way that it works, and then we'll let folks know as soon as we get any kind of information about that enhancement moving forward. Okay. Next, I just wanted to share, so we have worked with the Wave 1 agencies, and many of those core teams from those agencies voiced some concerns about the way that the system spots card functionality, or what's called the P card functionality inside of Oregon Buys was working. And so we took those concerns forward, and project leadership ultimately decided on a phased implementation of the spots card purchases. And so basically, once we receive a future system update where we have some functionality changes that affect those and address those concerns, and we're confident that that update meets our needs, that's the point at which we will then begin using the spots card process within Oregon Buys. So we do want to emphasize it is only a delay. It is absolutely our intent to use the spots card functionality in the system by the end of the project. But we just want to make sure it's going to meet our needs. And so we know that this is very important to the agencies. We took your concerns very seriously, and that's why we took this forward, and we just wanted to share this approach. So we are determining exactly how those spots card purchases will be done outside of the system during Wave 1, and so we'll be sharing with those Wave 1 agencies. But we just wanted to share this project leadership decision and see if there are any questions.
So Nicole, so as of right now, nobody's using it in the system, is that correct?
The spots card?
The spots card functionality.
Right. So we don't have any of our Wave 1 agencies yet using, doing purchases in the system anyway. Secretary of State and Forestry could be using them. It's my understanding that Forestry really isn't. They've been processing mostly the request for payment authorization and not using P cards because those RPAs don't allow for that anyway. And then Secretary of State has made the business decision to not use the spots card functionality in the system. And I think probably a lot of that reasoning, and Philip, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but I have a feeling a lot of those reasons are the same types of concerns that were raised by our Wave 1 agencies.
This is Philip. It's, currently it's still, there's no field for the CVV number. And so a lot of vendors that need that number to actually process the transaction, they only have, half-baked information to work with. So they still end up kind of calling us. There's this manual thing outside of the process, or they just don't bother. They send us an invoice, and then we have a P card enabled PO, but then we have an invoice that needs to be paid by check. And then that creates concerns. And so, we've kind of shied away from it in the meantime.
Thank you.
Yep, exactly. And that aligns a lot with the feedback that we got from the agencies. So we really appreciate all of that feedback, and we're excited to see what changes will be coming then in a future release and test that and be able to start using that function. Okay. So moving on, this was kind of a last minute ad here, but we would love to get some feedback from the council. There are times when the Oregon Buys support desk, so Periscope provides our support, and there are times where questions come into them that they can't resolve because it's an issue that really requires action from the agency or from the agency's organization administrator. So when that happens, our support folks will communicate those findings back to the user, and then they will either refer them back to the agency's organization administrator, or in some cases, they would need to refer them back to somebody who is a subject matter expert for the agency that can really speak to Oregon business process or Oregon procurement rule or any of that kind of stuff. And so we just wanted to get some thoughts from the council on who that subject matter expert contact should be, so that we can advise our folks providing that support. Okay, if this isn't really around an Oregon business process, contact your DPO, and the DPO may be able to answer that, or they may choose, and I'm gonna steal, I think, what ODOT is calling it, which I think is a really fantastic term, but I think they're establishing an Oregon Buys ambassador. I hope I'm saying that right, but basically somebody within their organization that really understands the way that the business process works in Oregon Buys and can speak to those really Oregon specific questions, not system functionality necessarily. And so in those instances, where can the agency support reps refer back to? Does it make sense to say reach out to your DPO, and then the DPO can either answer the question or refer them to whoever the subject matter expert is at the agency, or what makes the most sense to folks in that situation?
Would this oftentimes may not even be someone within the state? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like it might be a vendor asking questions?
No, this would be pretty much, it would be an agency user.
Oh, an agency user just.
So let's say, for Amber, so let's say this is one of your procurement staff that reaches out to our user support, and the question actually turns out that it's really more about business process for Oregon, not about how to use the system. And so in those situations, I don't know that we can assume that Periscope would be able to manage and keep a whole list of all of the people that at every agency we should refer to. So if we can say, like, if you get that type of question, tell them to contact their agency DPO, and then the DPO either routes it internally, or do we look to the agencies and say every agency should designate a subject matter expert, and maybe we try to put that list somewhere? What would be the best way to move that forward? Let's see, in the chat, Philip says, for SOS, DPO would be the best contact to either answer or direct to the right person. I like naming an Oregon Buys ambassador, which could be an agency DPO if they so choose. Yep, exactly. DPO. Let me ask, would there be an objection to us going forward with this being the DPO, and then if we start to see where maybe we need to reevaluate that, we can. But I feel like that I'm seeing a lot of DPO in the chat. I feel like that's a pretty simple answer. I would think most staff members that are contacting user support will know who their DPO is. And so for the user support person to say, okay, reach out to your DPO, that's definitely doable. So if folks are okay with that, if there's no objections, I think that's what we will move forward with. And then we can always come back and change this if that doesn't seem to be working. So I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. Okay, and then our last piece here was around Wave 2 agencies and what folks can start doing to get prepared. So we will have a what to expect forum at the end of June for those Wave 2 agencies, kickoff meeting early in July. But things that folks can start doing now is really to start expanding your agency core team so that includes members from accounts payable, budget, purchasing. We've got a link in here for a description of duties. The other thing that I really want to highlight here, and it's not on the slide, but the folks who are on your agency core teams would also be the folks that are participating in your agency validation, your agency process validation in the test environment in UAT, getting in there and running through those processes and making sure that those are going to work for your agency. And so having that context and having that history of sitting through those core team meetings and that understanding is really important. And so I think that's something great to think about as you're developing your core team. And then there is a link so that you can update your core team members, the list on the project website. So with that, Amber, I don't know if you want to put out the call for any feedback from Wave 1 agencies, but that was all of our content for today.
Sure, that's great. Thank you. No, that'd be awesome. I think, yeah, if there's anyone from, is there anyone that has been in Wave 1 that wanted to share a little bit about just kind of some brief feedback about your experience? Anything you might suggest for us to do? Do we have any Wave 1 agencies here? Yes. There's nothing. So kind of, did everybody just kind of feel like it went really well and they wouldn't make any suggestions as far as beyond what Nicole's already said as far as getting ready? No thoughts yet, or should I ask at a later time? I don't know. It's get your core team ready with cost. Okay. All right. Well, that works. Well, we can always try to revisit this again if that's kind of the feeling, we can touch it again. But that's great. That's great to hear that it sounds like if we've done what I know OA already has a core team in place and has got it set up in the beginning and got it updated on the website. I just heard something. Let's see. Is there a list of the scope of changes for phase 2? So phase 2 agencies can identify what will be changing. That would be, do you want to take that? Is OrganBuy still here? Nicole, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here. Sorry.
There you are. Sorry.
So we absolutely have things out on our project website to speak to that. I know that we're also working on, there is a process flow that I think might speak to, April, what you're looking for, and that we're just finalizing a few minor changes to. So once that gets finalized, I think that might be another one that will be sort of helpful to be able to really see the process for phase 2. But in the meantime, I think looking at what we have out on our project website that really shows the different things that are in the system, but just at a high level. So right now with phase 1, we've been doing our sourcing really in OrganBuys, right? So we've been doing bids and award, and then the master blanket purchase order was the posting of the price agreement or the ORS 190 or what have you. So the phase 2 is really rolling out the requisition process that would be potentially before the sourcing starts, and then also it would be purchase orders, sending the purchase orders to the vendor electronically in the system. It is receiving and invoicing, and then approved invoices going through the interface to the financial system to release payment. So that's a super high level, but that is, oh, thank you, Carter. He's got the link in the chat. But that is kind of a high level overview of what it is that's coming in phase 2.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll
Thank
just kind
you.
of keep, yeah, thank you very much for coming. That was very informative, as always. So that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll just roll right on ahead. We're just about perfectly on time, actually. So right now, next is going to be DAS updates. So Kelly, you've got the general DAS update.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Well, I think you have all been hearing the largest DAS update, which is our continuing work on Oregon buys, but I did want to mention a couple of things. First, I'm very happy to be able to introduce to all of you Norma Armstrong, who joined our management team just about a month ago as the manager of the IT Business Center. So she's managing the team that does all of the IT procurement with the DAS Procurement Services. And I see that Norma's been able to join us this afternoon. And I warned Norma I'd call on her to say hello. So Norma, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kelly. Thank you for letting me join all of you today. I found the information about Oregon buys very interesting, as it's a system I'm getting to know as well. But I just wanted to say I'm very happy to be here with the state of Oregon and working with all of you at some point throughout the process.
Well, we're thrilled you're here, Norma, so thank you very much. Sort of on that same theme of recruitments, seems like I've been reporting to this group for a number of months now that we are recruiting. Well, we are continuing to be recruiting for positions. We have 5 vacant sourcing positions right now across DAS Procurement Services. We have folks retiring, we have folks moving on to other careers, and so on and so forth. So we will be launching in the next day or two what we're calling an evergreen PCS3 recruitment. We have 3 PCS3 positions we are trying to fill. So we're hoping to do that. We also have a PCS2 on our IT team. We've had 2 unsuccessful recruitments to fill that position, so we are trying again. We have 2 vacant SPA positions across procurement services. One of those is, we just learned yesterday, will be vacated in the first part of May. So we'll be launching recruitments for those. So this, I think, feeds very well into the discussion that I know Amber's going to talk a little bit about, which is classifications, MQs, that whole aspect, and how that, over time may help us be able to recruit and retain folks into the procurement field. That I'm trying to recruit from the same pool all of you are, and we are sharing resources, I guess would be one way to put that. So Oregon buys, Norma joining our team, our recruiting difficulties, those are some of the things that are top of mind for us. And I just wanted to mention also, I will be going back to the executive leadership team in June to report back on feedback that agency directors brought forward at the end of February, specific to the procurement process in general, and some things specific to my office. So I will come back to this group as well and share with you the information I'm going to be sharing with ELT once that's finalized. But just so you know, in case your agency directors are asking, DAS does have that feedback and input, and we are working to respond to it. And I'll be happy to share that with all of you once we have that finalized. Those are probably the general updates I have today. Any questions on any of that? All right. Well, I think I'm on here again in a second, so I'll hang tight. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, so our next up is we want to talk about our DPO Council initiatives, 2022 DPO Council initiatives. And we talked a little bit about these the last time we met. And we're trying to essentially, we're getting kind of committees together to kind of talk about each one of these items and move them forward. Now I wanted to touch on the class and comp. I don't know if you remember before, Melissa Canfield had started this effort years ago. And did make some made way through some of it. I think some of the MQs were relooked at. So this was great. So we're not kind of starting from absolute scratch here on the class with the class and comp conversation. But I'll go ahead. Melissa isn't able to lead this committee for class and comp, so I'm going to go ahead and step in to lead this committee moving forward. She is going to be on the committee and part of it. So I think Josh has also offered to be part of it. Kelly's offered to be part of it. Who else did I hear? Somebody else. Sounds like there's a few other people that had reached out to Melissa and said they would be willing to be a part of that as well. We will get those names together, and then we're going to kind of have a conversation. I had reached out to Jen Coney over at DAS and DAS Class and Comp, and asking just kind of what was the time frame, that whether or not we might be able to get this kind of looked at. Unfortunately, in bargaining, there were several class and comp studies that were actually bargained that need to happen within this biennium. So they are pretty well maxed out on the class and comp studies they can do. And so her suggestion moving forward was to bring this forward for the 23-25 contract negotiations, right, in the bargaining sessions for 23-25. So we're going to look into that. The other thing, the accounting series, I don't know if you're aware, but the accounting series had been class and comp study has happened over the last several years. The committee is going to meet with some folks that were involved in that to sort of talk through lessons learned. What can we do? Is there anything we can do to speed up the process? We just want to be ready and get this through as quickly as we can. So if you're willing to be a part of that, we'd love to have you. Go ahead and reach out. You can go ahead and reach out to me if you'd like there. And then I'm going to get the names from Melissa, the ones who had reached out before also, so that we'll have kind of the group to get started with. So that is class and comp. Next is threshold increases, and Kelly will kind of do a quick little update on this one again. Do you want to just take it away, Kelly, and give them an update on where we are with that?
I'll take it. It's me again.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, speaking about thresholds, DAS is putting forward a legislative concept for the 2023 session to increase procurement thresholds in statute. We've been working with the governor's office to try to find the right level of increase that the governor's office would be able to support. We haven't finalized that yet, but what appears is going to be moving forward is increasing the small procurement threshold to $25,000 for direct award contracts, increasing the threshold for intermediates up to $250,000 before a formal process is triggered, and also increasing the direct award for public improvements up to $25,000. So those are the three categories that we'll be taking forward in the legislative concept. Obviously, we're very early in that process. We have to finalize this at the end of the summer, get approval through the legislative counsel's office and the legislature, and get a member of the legislature to sponsor the bill and go through that full process. But these are the levels right now that the governor's office has signaled they would be able to support. Tied to thresholds, something we're looking at trying to do a little bit quicker than the uncertainty of the legislative process, is to make some changes in our special procurement by rule pieces of the DAS procurement administrator rules. A couple of DPO meetings back, I asked folks to send me information if they had contracts or classes of contracts they thought might be sort of ripe for including in the special procurement by rule and allowing, which essentially then allows you to award contracts through an alternate process. In this case, directing award contracts at higher dollar values as an example. I did receive a feedback from a few agencies, but we still need more feedback to try to get a sense of what changes to the procurement rules in terms of the DAS rules around special procurements by rule. That provision would enable you to do more of the types of contracts that you're doing now more easily. Well, we can't paint a broad brush. I can't just say all personal services contracts. We have to create categories. So what I would like to do is, again, have some folks from the DPO Council work with me and a person on my team, Amy Velez, who's going to project manage this a little bit for me, and Jay Jackson, our policy officer, to get together, talk about in more detail what we hope to do through special procurements by rule and get more direct feedback on what would be the most beneficial. So if you, again, could let me know if you have an interest in participating in that. We'll be setting up some meetings to try to get more detail and then to draft rules. And then once we have our draft rules, we'll bring those back to the full DPO Council to look at and give comment on. Our goal would be by the end of this year to implement temporary rules and then move to the formal rulemaking process. So those are the two things and broad strokes we're looking at around thresholds. And I did see some chatter in the chat about the threshold. So again, just the repeat, we will be taking forward a request to increase the small procurement or direct award threshold to $25,000. It's currently at 10. Hasn't changed since 2013, that particular one. We'll be taking forward a request to increase the intermediate threshold to $250,000. That hasn't changed in 19 years. It's been at $150,000 since 2003. So we're looking to change that. And then increasing the direct award threshold for public improvement, which just recently went from $5,000 to $10,000. Last year, we're looking to move that up to $25,000 as well. I know there have probably been some hopes that we would see higher dollar levels, but this appears to be what the appetite is, both at DAS leadership and even more so at the governor's office for the level of change. So this is what we're going to try to drive forward. Questions on that? Okay, unless I've missed something in the chat, I'll leave it there. And please let myself and Kim Wisdom know to sign you up to be on our work group. Thank you very much.
Hey, Kelly, it's Tony from DOC. I had a question on,
thank you. You are signed up for the work group. All right, I appreciate that.
Awesome. Hey, I'm wondering about Amazon Business.
Yes, you sent me a note on that, and
yeah, we have a lot of interest at our agency. So
I answered you telepathically. Maybe you didn't get the message. So Amazon Business, as you all know, we kind of punted that down the road as we've been implementing Oregon Buys. Our goal remains to have that become a punch out for Oregon Buys once phase 2 is implemented. So you could go out to the Amazon website, do your purchasing experience and bring that back into Oregon Buys to complete the process. We don't have that in place yet. Really, we are still focused on just getting all of the basic pieces of Oregon Buys in place that we need to operate. So my short answer is I don't know when we'll have that in place. We have had some more contact with Amazon Business to talk about, what that might look like. We've had some initial discussions with them about a contract. They don't like to do contracts, and we don't like to not do contracts. So we're having some initial work with them on what that might look like. So The fast answer is we would like to do it. I don't know if we'll get there, and I don't know when, which is probably not the first time I've given that answer, but there's my update as sort of weak as it is.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You bet. Anything else? Let me just look at chat real quick and see if I missed anything. So, what about awarding to veterans? Is it going to increase? If you want to send me that question with a little bit more detail by email, I can look at it. We didn't point out anything specific around veterans, but I would be interested to hear more about that question, Saida.
Right.
Okay, I think I got to everybody. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and our final bit here on the initiatives is DEI and procurement efforts. So right now we don't have anyone necessarily who has said they're willing to head up that committee effort. And so, but in talking with, I was speaking with Miss Melissa about the class and comp piece, and she was sharing with me how in the past, or when those efforts went through with looking at the MQs, that we actually utilized some time at the DPO Council for that effort. And that, hey, why couldn't we maybe utilize some time with the DPO Council on this DEI procurement effort, and sort of looking at what we want to do, what we'd like to change, what are some ideas, what are the barriers, what can we do to move forward. So if people are up for the idea, I would love to propose that we utilize May's meeting or part of May's meeting to work on that effort together. Josh, we've got someone coming, right? Also next meeting. Did you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, Carrie Baxendahl with COVID has offered to present at our May meeting. And so just wanted to give you a heads up that that would be coming if so interested.
Is everybody think, do they like the idea of kind of utilizing a little bit or part of the meeting to do that, or any thoughts on that at all?
This is Philip. I love it.
Awesome.
This is Kelly. I love it as well.
Cool. Cool. And so I would say if you have any particular thoughts, like, because I think it's going to be, we're kind of going to start this out, have a lot of ideas, have a lot of people bring different perspectives to the table. So if you have some ideas of just some questions or thoughts or things we'd like to, that you think would be a good idea to brainstorm, or certain particular challenges that we can kind of use as part of our kind of kicking off that conversation, please go ahead and send those questions in to Kimberly and myself. And you could do Kimberly, myself, and Josh if you'd like to do that. That would be great. And then we can just kind of have some questions, peppered in just to get our brains kind of going and get the conversation flowing when we're talking about that. And then we'll have Carrie come and present, which will be great. And I think to just get some more feedback on how on where things are at from the COVID perspective. That would be awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add, Josh, to that?
No, I think it's a great idea. I was just thinking that we could, if it makes sense, we could break up the council into 2 groups. So that way it's a little bit smaller groups to have more organic conversations. And so I know Teams offers that. I don't know how to use it, but I know staff might use it too. So
that was something they, I think, utilized too. We could kind of look at a bunch of different things, break into groups and brainstorm and come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
I love that. And Amber and Josh, I could offer, if I had the information, to bring 3 things to talk about for that effort. I'm still waiting for a report back from the Racial Justice Commission, their subgroup on procurement, and their prioritized recommendations around DEI. If we have that, I can bring it and make it available, see if that helps inform the discussion. Also, there has still been talk by that group about a new executive order around DEI. I haven't seen anything, but I'll try to at least have an update on that I could share. And then thirdly, I don't know if we have invited Chris Wilson, who is our new manager for the statewide disparity study. But if it makes sense to have him come talk for 5 or 10 minutes, that may help shape up a little bit of the discussion around DEI as well. So I would offer those 3 things.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. I just in kind of in perfect timing, we have what we're calling at OIA called the Equity Think Tank Group. It's a relatively big group now, about 25 members from the community that are kind of coming in. We're sharing kind of what we're doing with the youth and getting just sort of feedback. We're also sharing our budget build and how we're doing with budget, like where are we prioritizing our asks for OIA and asking for feedback about that. And one of the pops that we're pushing forward with is around DEI and procurement and some asks there. And there was just some really cool feedback around, for instance, data. That was one of the things. It's like we want to be able to like track. We want to track and sort of de-aggregate, right, our data around DEI and our usage around DEI. And one thing that came back from that that was just super interesting that I hadn't even thought about it kind of from that perspective was, not just to track it sort of this MWESB level, if you will, but rather like break that down within. Because, they were saying, if you're really looking about how to diversify procurement and how to utilize diverse businesses, that group is more than just that. So they were like, you really need to break it apart and sort of break the if you're gonna collect the data, collect it, be prepared to disaggregate that and at a lower level and do that right off the bat, which I just thought, I had thought, okay, I'm gonna, we'll track, diverse procurements, how many reach outs did we do at each procurement, how it's solicitations, how many reach outs are we doing there? But I hadn't thought really about going to that super detailed level because somebody might ask you, okay, within that, what are the groups you're talking about here? And then that could better inform future reach out, right? So anyway, I think conversations like that are super cool. And there just was a lot of things that came up in that group that I honestly wouldn't have just organically thought of on my own, right? And so that was really, really great to get. So I think those are the kind of things we can get out of this conversation. So anywho, okay, great. No, I love that. So yes, if you would be willing, Kelly, that'd be great. And then we'll have Carrie and then we'll we'll just work in, as we're prepping the agenda, we'll work in a big chunk to start kind of working on this effort and then kind of go from there. And definitely we'll figure out the breakout thing. I don't know how to do that either, but we can figure it out. I know people that know. So we'll figure out how to do the breakout groups.
One thing I would like to ask DPOs is any particular COVID questions that they might have that Carrie can prepare for would be helpful. When she and I were talking about what we might want her to present on, I said, I think there's been some time since we've had someone from COVID present on, what are the minimum requirements, and just want to make sure that we're doing everything due diligence. And so that being said, I know there's also potentially questions or assumptions that could be debunked. So if there are any thoughts there that we can help out with, I will tell you within Business Oregon, because COVID is housed within Business Oregon, she and I are working internally on developing a set of checklists and a guidance document to help ensure that my own contracts team is doing everything we can within minimal expectations, but what is best practice? And so, based on any feedback that might be shared at next month's meeting, we might be able to come back later this year and present on what we have developed to ensure we're doing our due diligence. And so that way, my contracts office would be at least the poster contracting office that you all can look to. So.
Awesome. That was great. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Okay, let's see. How are we doing on time? We're actually ahead of time. Yay, that's cool. Okay, we're doing good this time. Next, let's move on to, does anybody have any questions or comments that you'd like to share in regards to our DPO council initiatives before I move on, since we have a little bit of time. Okay. All right. Moving right along then. We have Karen Johnson here, I think, to talk to us a little bit about with the DOJ update and a little update on legal sufficiency rules. Kind of touch on, I know we've talked a little bit before about if DAS kind of goes this direction, DOJ might think about, kind of that. So just kind of where you are with that too.
First of all, very cool to hear what DAS was doing and the thresholds, because I think that really needs to be done. So I'm very, very appreciative. Thank you for taking that on, because I think that's really where we needed to change things. And I think I've shared that with everybody before. The statute is where we need to do this, not the rules. So DOJ's rules, we are going to start the official rulemaking in June, just so everyone's aware. I don't know if I'll have the draft available by the end of May. I assume I will, but cross my fingers. And if I do, I will, of course, share it with you. But definitely it will be brought to the DPO Council. So that is the current thinking. I have no more updates on how we have changed anything than what I've shared before. Everything seems to be a little bit up in the air, but the DAS news is great. That will add to what DOJ might do in its rules. Because, of course, DOJ doesn't want rules that are different than the statute. So that that would not be a good thing. I don't think I could explain that. That's, I'd have to have the paper.
Seems like a minimum standard, Karen, that our lawyers should follow the law. I like that idea.
You kind of like that. I mean, I need the bag on my head to make that argument. So basically that's where we are at DOJ. There have been a lot of changes personnel wise relative to business transactions, just so everyone is aware. Business transactions basically right now is the IT and DAS procurement services support group, along with real estate. The construction folks have been moved over to government services, which is another division in general counsel. Just so everybody's aware of the reporting structures that happen. So when things require business transactions, which of course, our goal is all of the big contracts in the state, that's really what we're supposed to be about. They'll still come to us, again, with the idea that they will be the IT, real estate, and then the general goods and services. So I still am DAS contact counsel. That has not changed, so I'm very pleased about that. So Kelly wanted to get rid of me, I can tell. But I'm still the contact counsel for DAS, procurement services. Any questions you have relative to DOJ can come to me or to your contact counsel. Each one of you has a contact counsel. If you don't know who those folks are, I can share that list. That might be another good thing that we might need to do. So
I think that'd be great. Maybe we could send that out. It's just a mass update if you would be willing to share that.
Absolutely. I'll
Awesome.
get that to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Karen, this is Heather.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was just going to ask a follow-on question. So are we supposed to still submit our DOJ requests through the CRV email?
Yes, everything is
Okay.
being run through that email and then sectioned off to the right sections to deal with things. So that is
Okay.
correct. That has not changed.
Thank you. And by the way, just taking a second here to say thank you so much for all your work with the Presidio contract. We finally got it executed today and I sent you a copy.
Yay!
Yeah, right. Amen.
Great
Amen.
job.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen.
Great job on that one. And I love Tony, so that's okay.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's move to, yay, I'm so excited that we have time for this time. Some of our meetings that run so long. We are in the sort of agent there, the wrap up of the meeting, but to talk about agency happenings and do a roundtable if people have stuff to share. And I think this is the perfect time to talk about, recruitments you may have, any challenges that you're having. I think we had one earlier from, let me think here. Was it Julie? Did you have something you wanted to ask the group? Was it Julie? I think it was Julie.
Yes, Amber, thank you.
Okay.
This is Julie Hall from Oregon State Treasury. And I was wondering if any agencies are experiencing a uptick in surcharges from publishing and distribution and you didn't know about it until after the services were performed or after you've received your order. It's just on the invoice. So I was wondering if anyone had experienced that.
I haven't, but I haven't heard any complaining about it, but I might need to ask around from within, ask our folks if they've noticed anything. There's been nothing that's bubbled up to me.
Hey, Julie, this is Karen. I've been working with DAS Procurement Services on the paper. Paper prices are volatile, so I don't know if that's where you're seeing the increases, but Carrie Ashford is handling that for DAS Procurement Services, and she tells me it's changing almost every other day. So that might be part of the issue.
And we understand supply chain issues. We understand that prices are, supplies are more expensive. We get that. It's called communication before you place an order. And that's where I have a problem paying for surcharges after a PO has already been issued.
Yeah,
I have a hard time justifying paying $50 for a box of business cards when I can buy them on the street for $19 a box. The same paper. So I have a real hard time justifying that. And I know statute states that we have to have all of our printing done at P&D. It's still a hard sell.
I think that's definitely worth raising with P&D and probably Kelly, since they report to him.
Oh, good try, Karen, but they do not report to me.
Okay.
But I'm happy if you want to send me some specific concerns. I'm happy to connect you with the right folks at P&D in leadership who can hear those for you. But so far, P&D is not in my purview, and we both seem to enjoy it that way. But thanks anyway, Karen.
Sorry.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple of things in the chat I want to catch up on here. So Josh, I'm hearing DAS is working on expanding the internal audit software teammate agreement to include an off-premises services. Is that accurate? If so, where are we with that?
Josh, I don't know the answer to that, but Norma Armstrong is on with us. She can take that and follow up, and Karen may have some information.
Been working on a teammate license with Debbie Davis.
Great. Thanks, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's the team. Okay. Recent order business cards. Okay. Let's see that. So it looks like there are some people experiencing, looks like Dogami had an issue recently with P&D as well. Okay, Archana, DOJ needs a fantastic PCS2 announcement coming out next week. Please share with your staff. Let's see, Josh Hardage, I'm opening a PCA and PCS recruitment or PCS1 recruitment soon. And Sandra Flickinger, recruitment question, where do you push external recruitment announcements for procurement positions besides DPO, buyer link, LinkedIn, etc.? Let's see. Oh, higher education or community colleges. I think the question is anybody sending to higher education or community colleges? So I'll answer for OIA. We push far and far, very far and wide for all recruitments now. We actually we have an internal goal to have our recruitment efforts to reach out to as many folks as possible and to also get some diverse candidates for these recruitments as well. We actually looked at our youth population, which we have a 47% diverse youth population. And so our goal is to have our staff reflect the same as the youth we serve. So internally, we reach very, very far and wide. And that's a great idea, Michelle Johnson, too. Yes, we reach very expansive because we do have that goal. And And not only do we expect our recruiters to do it, but we expect the managers who are recruiting to be reaching out in any and all circles they can as well. And require a 47% diverse recruitment pool to move forward with interviews, unless you can show that you reached out excessively, and you're able to kind of justify, and then it takes in, there's a few other things that are taken into account. But we reach very far and wide, and I'd be happy to share that, Sandra, where we're kind of reaching out to. It's not necessarily only procurement centric, I should say. We reach very far out. So we actually pay for it to be posted on a couple of recruitments as well. And it looks like got some other people. I'm gonna kind of read down to answer that and then go back. Yeah, send recruitments out via OPA and an IGP. Yep. And then our HR office subscribes to university system application. Can't think of the name offhand. It goes directly to supply chain management student boards. Can you share when you remember that system? Josh, can you share that when you remember that system? Awesome, thank you. Gotten some great candidates through it. Okay, great. And then I think we had maybe a question. Oh, yes. So Julia from ODE. ODE will have a PCS2 and PCS3s coming soon. And I think that's it. Okay. OI will have a PCS1 going out pretty soon. Specific to kind of help sort of with some contract administration efforts around our physical plant section and construction contracts and working with DOJ. So it'll be kind of a unique version of a PCS1. All right. So does anybody else have anything you'd like to share? What's happening in your agency, how things are going?
One thing I want to mention, Amber and I were chatting offline. Obviously, we're getting into a return to work in May. And so
Yes,
the
yes.
question I asked, because Carrie Baxendahl asked the question, hey, is this meeting next month going to be in person or remote? And I said, good question, I don't know. So Amber and I were chatting, and the question is, well, what do we all want to do? And how soon do we want to transition back, if at all? So particularly important for guests that we invite.
And this is Tony, just really quick. We've been working with our friends over at DOJ to get templates for ARPA for both an ITB, PO attachments, and the A&E. And they're probably so sick of us begging for those, because right in the middle of all this, Ray's left, so it all fell on Blake. He has come through for us. As of today, we've gotten the A&E templates. So we're willing to share anything ARPA wise if it would help any of you folks. So just reach out to me if you're interested, and I'll be glad to share what we have.
Awesome, Tony will be reaching out to you for sure. I will be for sure. Awesome. What does everybody think about virtual versus an in-person? Is it, so see, I would like virtual as an option. Okay. I mean, is this kind of something where we want to try to find a meeting place? I mean, are we, and when you say I'm very interested, does that mean in person? Oh, Tony, I'm interested. Yes, sorry, that was a different response. Either is good for me. Sorry, I'm not tracking these very well. Archana, were you interested in person or?
Yeah, I would actually put forward my preference as virtual, but I would love to meet on occasion together, but predominantly I think the efficiency and just the the chats, the multiple conversations we are having. I mean, all of that seems to lend itself to having this virtual platform as being much more efficient. But I do like the idea of getting together once in a while too. Once or twice or three times quarterly. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I like that. I love that idea. It looks like we've got, quite a few people saying virtual. And then we've got somebody also saying, maybe we could have one maybe this summer. maybe Philip was saying, maybe that's something we could plan. It's just having one this summer. We can try to even have it where, maybe we can have it at a location where we can still have a virtual option. I don't know, it might be a little tricky to find, but I know like we've done that at OYA with our conference rooms where we'll kind of get people set up within the conference room, do the video through people's laptops so you can still see everybody, and then do the audio through the big the conference room screen, or however the speakers. So maybe we can look at something like, are people interested in something like that for this summer? And then we can try to make it a virtual option as well for the folks that can't make it in. Quarterly, maybe, yeah. In person, I agree. Let's do some virtual and some in person. Okay. Hybrid meeting, yep. Our trying to agree with you twice a year. Okay, cool. Lots of hybrid, and hybrid's very difficult for those that attend remotely. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I found that when we have like, hybrid meetings that, those who are there in person tend to dominate, and it's hard for those who are remote to like catch everything and interact and all that stuff. And some people have videos, some people don't.
Sure.
That's just been my experience though.
Yeah, sure. Maybe we can do one, like we can plan for having one this summer, and maybe we'll give it a little bit of time. So I know that we're just coming up on next week is the kind of return to work. So we'll stick with the virtual option for this next meeting for sure. And then we'll talk about whether maybe June or July, kind of look at the dates and kind of what might work if we can get an in-person meeting scheduled. Be kind of fun. Cool. And then, it seems like the overall thing is we'll stick with virtual for the most part, and then just try to see if we can get something together to meet in person at some point every now and again. That works. Oh, thank you for that, Josh. We're trying out an OWL system so we can host sometime. Nice. Okay, I don't know what an OWL system is.
I think it's where you meet at a zoo, isn't it, Josh? I don't know. What are you doing over there in business?
That sounds like fun.
So the OWL system, it's you either like it or you don't, but essentially what it is a device that you stick in the center of the table, and it has a 360-degree rotating video. And so whoever the presenter is, it then adjusts and focuses on the presenter. And then you have another screen where you can see everybody in the 360-degree room at once. It's got its limits, but it works. So it's an option.
Nice. Great. Perfect. Well, then I think, let's see, does anybody else have anything to share? I think we kind of did a lot of that in the round table, or if anybody wants to share verbally.
Amber?
Yes.
Amber, this is Julie. I have one more thing to share. For anyone that's familiar with Oregon State Treasury, just so you all know, we have moved to our new building located on 867 Hawthorne Avenue Southeast in Salem, next to the old Costco. So we are officially out of the Labor and Industries building on Winter Street, effective today.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. That is wild. So you guys are in the old Costco? Is that what you said?
No. We built a new building.
By the old Costco.
Yes, it's.
Gotcha.
Drive by Hawthorne Avenue. It's pretty impressive looking building, if I do say so myself.
That's awesome. Very
Thanks.
cool. All right, and I think I just saw something from. Could we do a review of the charter at an upcoming meeting? Absolutely, I think we could. I don't know. It might need to do it, not this one, but maybe the one after that. I think the DEI one might take up a fair time. And so do we want to do the one, so I guess that'd be June? Yeah. And that'll give too. I think that'd be great. And I think we could absolutely do that. And then we could maybe send that out ahead of time so that people have a chance to review and bring things forward. So we're not trying to kind of cram it all in at the time of the meeting. Does that work?
Yeah, just remember that we already did a lot of work on this and it was finalized, and there was a lot of feedback and changes. And based on some DOJ legal advice, it got changed in some ways. to address some of that, which we really can't discuss at this open meeting. But I do think we need to just do a once over to make sure everybody understands the new terms of the charter. And if the DPO council itself wants to know specifically why certain titles changed or certain language changed a certain way, we can do that within our smaller group, because it was DOJ legal advice, and we've been told we don't want to, that shouldn't be discussed at the larger meeting, but we can do it in the smaller meeting and I can help you understand it. But I think we just need to do a once over review, just so folks know all the work that was done did get completed and what it looks like now.
That'd be great. You want to do the review in the big meeting? Is that what I'm understanding, or in the just
Well,
exec
I
session?
mean, I opening it up for comment and stuff, I don't know if we need to do that because we just did that last year, but I'm more interested in just like thinking we go through it with the DPO council to say, here are the terms of the charter, here's the expectations of the members, you know, different, you know, just walking people, everyone through it so everybody's on the same page about it.
Sure.
But I don't think it's time for us to update it. I think we have to update it every 2 years or 3 years. You have to look at the bottom of it, it says, but so it's not time to really look at it and change it. But I do think we need to just have a once through with the group.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, I think we could do that. We could schedule that for June's meeting. And then we can take a look at when the update is and get that kind of, just so we have that for a future. It's on the kind of the future agendas, potentially in future years. Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Oh, okay. Try not to cough. It picks up everything, so try not to cough. Oh, is that Lisa? Her comment about the owl system. Okay, and fancy new digs. Oh, New York Times did an article about Treasury's new building. Very cool. Okay. Well, I think if there is nothing else, if nobody has any other comments they'd like to put forward, then I think we can give you back a few minutes of your day. All right, and then we'll plan for next month. We'll be reaching out. So I think we'll be sending out some updates in the meantime. We'll get that list out that DOJ has. I think it'd be good for us to, we'll put kind of the members of the different committees so far, the people that have committed. We'll send that out to the big group. We'll get kind of that list together, send it out to the big group, and then you can kind of add your name if you're like, hey, I'd like to be on that one too. So, or hey, my friend's on that, you know, that whole thing. So I think that might be nice. And yeah, and if you have any questions about any particular questions about COVID that you would like, is it Carrie? Was it Carrie? Carrie to address, send those to Josh and yeah, Josh, is that okay? And then, yep, okay, and then we'll work on that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
And,
Amber. Thanks,
Thank
Josh.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.